This week I'm working on this Ford S-Max, which has a huge dent on this front panel. As you can see, it's been pushed in quite some way, which has left a mixture of kinks and creases from top to bottom. But using a process called paintless dent removal, I'm going to show you the complete repair of how I restored this panel back to its original condition, using no filler and no paintwork.
Hi everyone, it's Jake Quintin from Dents, and today I'm going to be showing you the complete repair of how I restored this front panel back to its original condition using the paintless dent removal technique. And today this video is sponsored by Skillshare, but more about that later in the video. So this customer parked his car up at a multi-storey car park at a large shopping complex, and when he returned to it later, this is what he came back to. There was no note or explanation of what had happened, so unfortunately he was left with having to get this fixed himself. So he called me up and asked if I was up for the challenge, and I gladly accepted. But first, before I show you the complete repair, let's take a detailed look at all the damage.
So I've checked the panel and I can confirm that it's made from steel. If we look at the panel head on, we can see that the damage covers an area of approximately 300mm by 680mm. And I think the best way to deal with this repair is to break it down into three sections. Section A, Section B and Section C. Looking here at Section A, we can see that the body line has been deformed and pushed in by approximately 25mm. And because of this, we have this nasty bulging crown over the top of this body line shown here. Going back and looking at Section B, this is probably the most complex part of this repair, as we have this plastic grille which really makes this section a weak point on this panel due to the large cutout. So that's probably why it's creased and crumpled so much in this section. I would say that the impact point on this panel was probably between Section A and the upper part of Section B. And if we look at the wheel arch profile, we can see that it's been pushed in by approximately 50mm, and this has also created a couple of kinks at the edge of the front wing. Now if we go back and look at Section C, this part just really consists of a low section and a high crowned area. This section was the furthest from the impact point, so it's only sustained minor damage. The only other thing to mention is that gap between the wing and the door has opened up slightly, but once all the main damage is out, this should close back up again nicely. Okay, it's time now to strip some parts off the car so I can get started. In order to get behind this panel, I need to release the plastic stone guard, so I need to raise the vehicle up to get access to the clips. Using my trim clip remover, I can easily pull these clips out one by one. Then using my ratchet with a 10mm socket, I remove the plastic nuts that are situated inside the wing liner. Once these clips are removed, the wing liner can be unclipped and pulled aside. Then I can remove the plastic trim panel. Lastly, I lower the vehicle back to the floor. Before I start to glue pull, I like to make sure the panel is completely clean, so I'll wipe the areas that I need to pull with some alcohol solution. This will ensure I get good adhesion with my glue tabs. I'm going to do things a little bit different today. I'm going to stick several cold glue tabs to the panel first, similar to the hot glue pulling method. I'm pressing them into the panel with a twisting motion to get good adhesion. I'm then using some long hot glue tabs on the body line section at the top here, as these will stick stronger to the panel and hopefully pull the body line out better. Now I'm just giving the panel some gentle heat to help even more with the adhesion. I'm starting up here in this section first with the hot glue tabs. As you can see, this creased area is very strong, so I'm not getting much movement using the slide hammer. However, the cold glue tabs are working much better on the soft dents in the middle section. As you can see, the panel is coming out and the door gap is closing up again. I've decided to go in again with the hot glue tabs to try and apply some more force while tapping down the crown above. Using the tabs with a slide hammer isn't really creating enough force. Ideally, a glue pulling tower system would work much better on this damage, so I'll have to push this body line up from behind. But here's the progress so far. Right, so the first section I'm going to push up is Section A. I'll place my light onto the side of the panel so I can get the best view of this damage, and then I'm going to start off with my large rubber tip. First I need to heat the panel up to prevent cracking the paint, and then I can go in behind with this bar to start pushing up the body line and all the low sections. I'm also holding tension on the low sections whilst tapping the crowns down with my hammer. I'm actually wedging the bar on my leg to give me the best outward tension on the rubber tip whilst I tap the crown down. I'm now using my knockdown with the large rubber tip to bring down what's left of the large crown, and I'm viewing it from above as this gives me the best view of this crown. And as you can see, it's flattening down quite nicely. I'm now switching to my plastic vinyl tip. After a gentle bit of heat, I can go in with this bar and push up all the low sections. As you can see, there are quite a few, so this does take some time to do. Next, I'm going to bring up this small dent just under the body line at the top of the panel where the plastic trim's fitted. Using the plastic bullet tip, I can get right into the edge of the panel here, which allows me to push this up quite easily. And after a few tap downs, it's gone. Here's a quick review of all the progress so far in section A. Okay, now I'm going to jump down to section C. If you look from this view, you can see that we have this obvious bulging crown and this low section just above it. First, I need to attach my PDR light to get the best view of it, and then I'm switching back to my large rubber tip. After applying some gentle heat, I can start to push up this low section with some controlled pushes from the rear of the panel. Here I'm moving around this low section and I'm trying to bring it up evenly. Then using my hammer, I can start to hammer down the high crown section. It takes some time as it's quite a long ridge. As before, I'm creating some outward tension on the panel in the low area while simultaneously tapping down the high crown. I'm now switching to the plastic vinyl tip to fine tune all the small low sections. I'm using this tip to push up all the low sections that the large rubber tip left behind. I'm also using my sharp dowel ring tap down to remove any high points. And here we are, this is the review of section C after the initial roughing out.
Okay, so at this point in the video, I just wanted to mention today's sponsor, which is Skillshare. It's a platform that I've been using for some time as I find it's a great way to learn new skills from editing the very video that you're watching now to photography, electronics, product design, 3D printing, the list just goes on. It's a great platform with classes that can really help you to achieve your best, as it's a huge online community of creative and curious people exactly like me, where you can pretty much learn anything you want. Now, following on from my last video where I mentioned I was learning Adobe Illustrator, this week I've decided to increase my knowledge in using Photoshop. So I've been following another course by Daniel Scott called Adobe Photoshop CC Advanced Training Course. I already use this program for creating things like my thumbnails and editing any videos for my repairs for social media channels, but I've only ever known the basics. So I've decided to dive into some more advanced features, which will hopefully save me some time when using it in the future. And the great thing I like about Skillshare is you can learn at your own pace, and all of their courses are ad-free. So you can always remain focused and in the zone when learning something that really interests you. So if you want to make 2022 a new year of learning and discovery and want to increase your knowledge in productivity, business skills, video editing, graphic design, or anything else, then I can highly recommend Skillshare. They have everything you need to take your learning to the next level. To sign up, simply use the link at the top of my description. The first 1,000 people to use the link on my description box or my code will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Right, now let's get back to this repair.
Now it's time to rough out the last section, which is section B. As you can see, this section still has lots of dents and ripples which all need to be straightened out, so there's quite a lot of work needed to be done here. The first tip I'm going to use is my large rubber tip. I'm just going to gently heat the panel, and then I'm going to start off by pushing out some of the larger low sections in this area. I'm also going to be using my hammer with the large rubber tip to bring down some of the high crowns. Like before, I'm using my PDR bar to keep some tension on the panel. Using my knockdown with a standard rubber tip, I'm tapping down some of the kinks at the edge of the panel, which includes this flared out section where the plastic stone guard clip locates into. Now it's time to straighten this section where there's a protrusion coming outwards on the flat section of the wheel arch. To do this, I'm using my knockdown with a plastic vinyl tip, as it should be hard enough to tap this high part down, but not too sharp to leave any marks on the panel. I'm then gently pushing up the low spot beside it. Then I'm tapping down any high areas with my dowel ring tap down. Next, I'm going to straighten these two kinks at the edge of the panel. For this, I'm using my standard tip on my knockdown. Now I'm using my large rubber tip on my knockdown to remove some of the large crowns in this middle area and the flat section of the wheel arch. I then move down the panel slightly to attack the other large crown, and for this I'm still using my large rubber tip. I'm now moving back up the panel to remove this tight little dent just above where the plastic trim fits into this panel. To remove this, I'm going to be using my plastic bullet tip. Using this tip, I'm able to get right into the edge of the panel so I can lift the low section up. I'm also using these edge clamps here to straighten this kink section where the paint has slightly cracked. I then use my knockdown with a standard rubber tip to remove the high area just in front of this low section, and there we go, that looks nice and straight again. And that's it, this is the result so far after all the 3 sections have been roughed out. Now it's time to go back and fine tune everything. To start with, I'm going to be working on this top section here, and the first tip I'm going to use will be my medium point tip. Here I'm just slowly pushing up all the micro lows one by one, which needs a ton of patience. I'm then tapping down any micro highs using my Delrin tap down, which I've sharpened to a nice point. I'm then going into the middle section again using my plastic vinyl tip to bring up some of the low sections just below the cutout section for the side grille. Now just a few tap downs with my sharp Delrin tool and I'm done. Now it's time to refresh the whole panel and remove any surface marks, so I'm using a coarse cutting compound on my polishing pad. I'm also removing the paint transfer mark which was left on the plastic side molding. And as you can see, after a little bit of polishing with the compound, this comes straight off. The last polish is a fine gloss polish. I work this polish into the panel with my polishing pad to give the panel a deep, rich shine. Now it's time to assemble all the parts back on the vehicle. So I insert all the support pieces that I removed earlier, and then I can snap the plastic grille back into the middle of this panel. However, if we look closely, there's still a bit of an issue as the soft plastic trim has become slightly bent at the top, which is preventing it from sitting back flush with the panel. This isn't really a problem, as all I need to do is warm this trim up slightly and then just use a gentle bit of force with my fingers to bend it back. This time when I refit the trim, we can see that this has totally fixed the issue and the trim now fits perfectly in this panel again. The next thing to do is to tighten all the plastic nuts around the inside of the stone guard. I can then push these plastic clips back into place around the lower section of the wheel arch. Then the last thing to do is to drop the vehicle back to the floor and check out the final result. Well, another difficult repair completed, and I was really happy with the result on this one, and so too was the customer. Luckily I had great access behind, but there was still a lot of difficult sections that needed to be repaired in the right order to achieve this result. I found the glue pulling really helped to bring out the bulk of the damage, although the hot glue tabs did struggle a bit on the top body line as the crown above it added extra strength into the panel. Probably the best way to have pulled that out would have been with a glue pulling tower, but to get around this I made good use of the space that I had behind to lever this damage out with my PDR bars. Luckily all the metal creases and kinks settled down nicely again, the door gap closed up, and with a little bit of heat and some gentle persuasion I was able to get the side grille to fit back nicely again. So no new parts or any filling or painting was needed on this repair. As always, if you enjoyed the video, it'd be great to get a thumbs up, and if you want to keep in touch with all the latest video releases, feel free to hit that subscribe button, and if you click the bell icon you'll be informed of when the next video goes live. Also, there's many more videos like this over at my YouTube channel, so if you have the time, why not go and check out some more of these in-depth repair videos. But that's all for now. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I hope to see you all again on the next one.